Okay, this is for when you are on a road trip and you don't want to sit on the floor. You're gonna find that ottoman that every single hotel room has, and you're just gonna sit on the edge. Try to see if you can find your sits bones and your pelvic bone onto the edge of the ottoman. It took some of the stress out of my wrists because, holding onto a steering wheel. And then bringing my chin down towards my chest without forcing it, just to get a little bit of movement. And letting myself just rock my head forward and back. I'm doing it once to the front, actually twice, and then twice to the back. And then I'm going to add a side bend because, your lower back is probably stiff as well. So just kind of warming up the lower back with the neck movement. I know that sounds funny, but the great thing is that the whole spine gets benefits from the top of your head down to your tailbone, and just letting yourself just slowly get into the movement of the spine. And then as you can see, I'm getting a little bit deeper into moving the spine with an exhale as I let myself bring about my belly button into my spine. And then a nice little inhale as I let my chest open up. I'm continuing on. And what I'm trying to do is get a little bit of movement in the intestines, because when we've been sitting all day and not drinking enough water, we kind of need a little bit of help with our digestion. So this time I'm bringing my arms forward and I'm letting myself just feel the nice lengthening of the arms. And then again, finding a way that I can maybe hopefully get a little bit of movement in my intestines. And then again, going to the side, but this time bringing the arm up. And then doing the same thing to the other side. Now, I don't know if you can notice, but my hair is actually wet. Because I was envisioning of how, you get into your hotel room and then you take a shower because you've just been in the car all day long. And then you're like, okay, I'm ready to get myself a little bit more comfy. But you want to make sure that you just, add a little bit of movement without being on the floor. So then being able to sit on the edge of the chair. Then you're going to go ahead and face one end of the chair. Try and have your knee right above your ankle and really get that parallel quality of that leg. Although I'm using a chair, I am envisioning the use of an ottoman here. And sometimes I have noticed that some rooms do have small little chairs like this. And then you can just kind of put your hand on one end and then reach over to the other side, extending that leg. Gets a little bit deeper, allows yourself to really feel that nice side bend, and just lets you just breathe a little bit more. Even though you're sitting on the edge of the chair, I'm still thinking about pressing all 5 toes and heel into the floor so you can find a connection in the hamstrings and the calves here. And then I'm trying to make sure that I can still feel a scoop of the belly, even though my intestines need some help. And we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Try not to sink into the chest. Now, one thing I definitely want to point out here is that when you're doing your side bends here, try and see if you can see that foot that's on the floor in your side eye still. So really letting yourself have a little bit more of a diagonal positioning of that foot instead of just to the side. And then again, you can see that I'm doing my side bends from one side to the other, getting that nice stretch of the side body. Then you get to go ahead and find yourself standing. And I like to just get that really nice little hamstring stretch here. I am allowing myself to try to get an articulation of the spine and trying to get more of that stretch in the lower back area as opposed to the upper back. So really letting myself find the belly button up into the spine with that scoop sensation. Even though I'm doing cat and then going into cow, I'm trying not to let myself depend on my shoulders so much. And then I'm also making sure that my knees aren't locked out. So letting myself then find that inhale as I bend my knees to get a little bit more of a stretch of the lower back. Then exhale as I lift. As you can see, I'm really trying to make sure that my hips are over my knees and my knees are over my ankles. And then even when I bend my knees, I'm trying to make sure that my knees are over my third or second toe. That way I still keep that nice parallel. I'm extending one leg out so that way I can get a little bit more movement, and I'm being assisted by the chair with some support to just kind of get that single leg lunge, trying to let that knee in the back go directly down onto the floor so I can have two 90-degree angles if I can. But I'm still a little stiff, so I'm just going to let myself only bend down just as far enough as I can handle, quote unquote, and then feeling that scoop of the belly. Sometimes bending the knee behind you is a little bit too much, but you get to decide if you want to add this part or just let that leg get nice and straight. All right, so we're being brave, getting our knees down onto the floor. You can always make sure you have a towel with you. And then I'm getting a nice little knee stretch here. So I'm trying to sit on my heels. Now this might be a little bit too much for some people, so just a little bit of a slight bend will be fine. I'm also enjoying the little bit of a thigh stretch that I'm getting as I'm sitting on my heels here. You can always do a different kind of thigh stretch. We could go over that in a different video, but this is what I'm doing at this one. I like to add side bends in between, and even though I'm super lip bloated and feeling super bloated, I'm trying my best to really bring that belly button into the spine. Then I'm going to go ahead and again feel the shins heavy onto the floor, put my forearm onto the ottoman when I'm ready, and then getting my two side ab muscles turned on so I don't sink into the chair. Once again, I get to go ahead and get that nice little stretch, put my hand onto my hip, and then lift the leg up. As I'm lifting my leg up, the other leg that's up against the ottoman, I'm pressing the shin down into the floor. That way I'm assisting my leg to lift up and down with that scoop of the belly. And then I'm also making sure that I still feel a nice lengthening of the chest and of the whole spine. I went ahead and decided to go ahead and do some single marches again. If you need to take a break in between, please do. But I like to kind of go through all of it, but then also I don't get that muscle fatigue all the time. Sometimes I do, and I'll take a break. And if you do feel that muscle fatigue, then take a break. And then we're going to do some circles here. And then again, you get to then reverse the circles. And I think I do about 4 or 6. Oh, 6 it is. And then we get to go ahead and wiggle it out a little bit. And then we get to do the other side. Now, I really wanted to make sure that I had some baggy pants on and just a tank top just to kind of show, like, these are the ways that I dress when I'm doing a road trip. Just something comfy, right? And then again, allowing myself to just feel that side stretch. And then I'm adding the leg out to the side. Pressing those shins down into the floor. Lifting and lowering. Trying to make sure that I still feel super, super long. Keeping the ribs knitted. Keeping those hips a little bit more narrow in the front. Wider in the back. And then getting into my single leg march. The goal is to bring the knee right in front of the hip. Sometimes we have that range of motion, sometimes we don't, depending on how you've been sitting in the car. So just work with it. Definitely make sure you give yourself some patience as you're moving. And then again, finding those circles. It's very easy to kind of cave in towards your chest, so trying to keep your two side ab muscles alive to connect with your inner thighs so you can keep your chest open in the front is really important here. And then I'm going to go ahead and add some fascia release here by letting myself curl those toes under and then trying to stretch those toes. I'm really trying to get those pinky toes down onto the floor. They don't always get to reach down, which is kind of sad to me. They get lifted out, but then feeling that nice great stretch of the fascia here is essential. Once again, getting into that really great hamstring stretch kind of reminds me of elephant on the reformer, or a down dog with standing legs. And then just letting myself just stretch. Watching the health of my knees though, so they're not locked out. I am trying to really work on creating that parallel quality and then letting myself bring my feet towards my hands and then finding that scoop and standing up nice and tall. At this point, I have felt a little bit of release of the bloating. And then again, I'm going to go ahead and get into that side leg action. But this time, we're going to do some ab work so that way I don't have to be on the floor. Finding your shoulder and your hip connection here, just twisting from the middle back. It does a pretty great job having that nice little exhale. My fingers are 2 inches away from each other behind my head, right where a high ponytail would be. And then I'm going to go ahead and again let myself find my upper back with my arm coming up and just bringing that hand in a diagonal. I've already turned my 2 side ab muscles so that way my whole core is engaged, so that way my arms won't go up into my ears as I'm bringing that arm across the way from me. That way I can get a good stretch of the upper back, and I get to go ahead and feel the muscles underneath the armpits. And then I get to go ahead and just relax here a little bit. Again, if there's any time when you're doing any of these things and you take a break, please do. I like to also make sure that I get that upper back extension once I've been using my arms. That way I get that stretch of the abs as well. Once again, you can see that both my hands are away from each other behind me, about 2 to 3 inches. And I'm twisting again. You saw my self-correction because I probably noticed my ribs are feeling very, very open. So I need to bring that leg a little bit more forward so we can kind of find that rib and hip connection better, and definitely the shoulder and hip connection better. Again, you can see how I'm slapping the hand across my body, so creating that diagonal as I let my hand go down and then up. Trying to really utilize the muscles underneath my armpits to get that nice stabilization of the shoulder blades in line with my pelvic floor. And then I get to again find those knees right over those heels. And then I'm going to go ahead and allow myself to just have that rotator cuff exercise by just what I like to call flipping pancakes. And then feeling that nice scoop of the belly, trying to really find that nice lifting of the spine, and then taking advantage of feeling that my abs don't feel, or my tummy doesn't feel quite as bloated. Finding a nice static hold here of that bicep curl and lifting through the back of my arms into that nice tricep feeling. My arms are down, and then I get to go ahead and again just finish with a couple of little side bends here. Finishing up with the breath work, getting that nice feeling of length. And then again, one more time, feeling myself to the side, letting the legs slide out, and then in, just getting a little bit more side leg movement here. Using the abductors and the adductors. And then again, hands behind your head. Giving yourself a little bit of a balance challenge as you're moving the leg. And then do the same thing to the other side. If you don't want your foot rubbing up against the carpet, just get like a sheet of paper off of that notepad that's usually on the desk and put it underneath your foot. That way you have like a sliding disc for yourself. I think I did about 3 or 4 without the hands behind my head, and then creating a little bit more of a challenge by putting the hands behind the head. Sometimes I forget to count. But I definitely made sure that I felt all the ab movement here, and then once again letting myself find a little bit more of a stretch of the whole spine, and then sitting up nice and tall, and then again. And then one more time. And now you're done.